Hello everyone, welcome back to A Speech a Week. Coming to you from my old bedroom at my mum's house today. I hope you can see and hear me okay. It's a bit of a shoddy Wi-Fi connection here. I'm really looking forward to that not being a problem anymore. So yeah, do let me know that you can hear me and see me. The window's open, so you might get a nice little bit of bird song while we do this week's A Speech a Week. And we are looking at Isabella from Measure for Measure, following on Act 3, Scene 1 from last week's work on Claudio's speech, where Claudio is asking Isabella to do the deed that Angelo has offered her to do or asked her to do in order to save her brother's life. Oh gosh, I'm really out of breath. I've checked. I don't have COVID, but I'm definitely unwell today. So forgive me if I'm a little bit spluttery. I've got my handkerchief and my water with me. But yes, if you're new here, the aim of the game is to help you understand Shakespeare and have a little practice myself. So for those of you who are new here, I'm a professional actor. I trained at Bristol Theatre School. I'm from Essex and I've travelled all over the world and worked all over the world. And I predominantly work in theatre, film, voiceover and television, so a bit of everything, which is great. But I really do love Shakespeare. I think his stories and the language is something that if you can harness and understand fully, which doesn't take a lot of work. I mean, it does, but it kind of doesn't contradictorily. Oddly enough, it's the best thing to act as actors. I do think that there's a quote my colleague that I've been working with for the auditions at the Old Vic lately says, the language is so rich and that's why, and the stories are so strong and powerful and emotive and dramatic, and that's why actors like to play Shakespeare, because it gives you everything you could need to make theatre, to make magic and to make stories. So all of that being said, we are looking at Isabella. Oh, you beast, oh faithless coward. And the way I do the A Speech a Weeks is I'll read it out to you. I haven't learnt this speech. It's really easy to learn, actually. This is a short chunk, and I've done a short chunk on purpose. We are going to go on to 0555. However, I don't have a lot of time today. As you know, I'm juggling lots of other things while I do this. Excuse me. I read it just to lift it off the page for you and let you hear it spoken relatively truthfully. And articulated and, well, yeah, lifted off the page. And then what we'll do is we'll talk through it. We'll break it down. I'll tell you what I think it means, what you think it means. You can talk as well. I've got the chat enabled and you can engage and we can kind of work through it together to make it really crystal clear and discuss the potential choices that we can make as the actor around the speech. Then I'll read it one more time, often trying it very differently. Neither way is a right or wrong, perfect take. That's not what I'm doing this for. I want to mess up. I want to show you that this is a process and this is the work that is required when you look at a Shakespeare text. Just because it is a richer language, we don't talk like this anymore. I'm sure some people do, to be fair, actually, but the majority of us do not talk like this anymore. So it does require that little bit of extra work so that you can release into the language properly. Marvelous, isn't it? So I'm going to hold my giant complete works up. In fact, I should have a smaller version somewhere. I've gone through all my plays lately. Oh, I should have picked out the old school version I had. Never mind. So Claudio has just asked her to, well, he's saying, you know, I'm going to be living in hell, so the least you could do is commit this sin of adultery, sleeping with Angelo. Just to fill you in, I won't go too much into the context. Angelo is the current Duke of the area. I've totally forgotten. Is it Venice? It's not Venice, is it? Mind blank. He's stepped in to clear the area of its Vienna. There we go. Of its sin and crime and everything, and he's abusing his position of power entirely. Isabella is a young nun. She goes to see Angelo to ask him not to execute her brother. Her brother Claudio has committed sex out of marriage, committed the sin, the crime of sex outside of marriage. Even though he's going to marry her, he's got his girlfriend pregnant, his fiancée pregnant, and he's being made an example of by Angelo. And then Angelo has said, oh, I'm really aroused by this woman. If she sleeps with me, I'll save her brother's life. If she doesn't, he can go and die. What the on earth? This is a really... And when I say it like that, it doesn't carry the weight of those circumstances. But if you're going to look at this, and if you're going to commit to playing Isabella, you've really got to do that work and that back work of thinking and imagining how the hell it would have felt the moment Angelo shut that door and said, okay, no one's going to believe you, by the way, if you do tell anyone that I've said this. So good luck. I look forward to hearing your decision. You've really got to embody that and imagine that and commit to getting to that level. And the same with this scene with Claudio. Your brother is effectively asking you to give up your maidenhead to save his life and commit the very crime that he is being punished for right now. And not only that, she's a nun. Her whole life and faith is about being married to God. She's not meant to have sex at all. So it really is questioning her morals and what she believes in and who she is. What would you do? There you go. So let's have a little read then. This is quite an intense bit, so it's probably going to be a bit and a little bit melodramatic and a little bit weird, but we're taking it out of context, remember. But I'm going to lift it off the page, or I'm going to commit to giving it to you a little bit. And it starts with 3 massive exclamations. Here we go. Claudio's just said, sweet sister, let me live. What sin you do to save a brother's life, nature dispenses with the deed so far that it becomes a virtue. Oh, you beast! Oh, faithless coward! Oh, dishonest wretch! Wilt thou be made a man out of my vice? Is it not a kind of incest to take life from thine own sister's shame? What should I think? Heaven shield my mother played my father fair, for such a warped slip of wilderness ne'er issued from his blood. Take my defiance, die, perish. Might but my bending down reprieve thee from thy fate, it should proceed. I'll pray 1,000 prayers for thy death, no word to save thee. Oh, fie, fie, fie! Thy sin's not accidental, but a trade. Mercy to thee would prove itself abhorred. 'Tis best that thou diest quickly. Interesting. Absolutely not the way it definitely should be done. I thought the fies were a bit much, but also that's definitely my modern day actor ego stepping in there. There's 3 fies there. They've got to be different. There's got to be a new thought behind. And in trying those out, I don't think I got it quite on the head yet, but it needs that sort of passion and belief and commitment, yeah? So, interesting. Let's have a little translate then, shall we? Well, first of all, first thoughts, feelings. What have you got from that? Do type in the comments, and also do comment below if you're watching this later. Wow, right? There's lots of 3s in here. We've got the first 3 things she says, the 3 separate sentences she says, begin with an O and end in an exclamation mark. And then there's a gap where Claudio says, nay, hear me, Isabel. And she says, oh, fie, fie, fie. I missed his lines just for sake of running on a little bit. But fie, 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 3 again. It's a rhetoric device that. Look up rhetoric if you're not sure what I mean whenever I say rhetoric, by the way. But it's something that Shakespeare would have studied. It was something that was often taught to young scholars. Rhetoric, the art of public speaking, right? You see it in politics all the time. Look up some politicians talking and you'll be able to see which ones are good at rhetoric and which ones are not so good at rhetoric. And that probably is reflected in the longevity of their career as well. Excuse me. Wow, that was a big one. But this is a big monologue. This is a big monologue, but very short. See what I'm saying? Wow. Yeah. Rodney says, very powerful. Hi, Rodney. Dispensing a dose of reality. Beautifully put, Rodney, as always. Ever eloquent. Absolutely. It's so brilliantly done. But Shakespeare could have done. So This is an exercise I recommend that you all try when you're working through a classical text, or indeed any script. What could you take out and it still makes sense? We could lose "Oh faithless coward" and "Oh dishonest wretch." We could lose both of those exclaims and go from "Oh you beast, wilt thou be made a man out of my vice?" But he didn't write that. He put the extra two in. I think that's a very clear indication that Isabella has to be at the end of her frickin' tether at this point and still going at him. I think this is a hard scene to do on here without another person reading in and me fully embodying it and committing it. I should have learnt it, really. You've got to commit wholeheartedly to this for it to work. And one thing I often see young actors do is get that, oh, it's too theatrical. Oh, it's too dramatic. No, it's too much. In a world where we live in Instagram, we have to look like this all the time. We think truth and passion is too much and too theatrical. It's not. This is the truest form of human emotion and nature coming through. Again, this is why good actors, love to play Shakespeare. Lottie says, I think she starts, hello Lottie, welcome. I think she starts impulsive and then she starts to make sense of what she wants when she starts to say it's best he dies. Definitely. Absolutely impulsive. She's just letting her anger out. She doesn't ask, and again, she doesn't straight away ask, is it not a kind of incest to take life from your own sister's shame, from thine own sister's shame? She doesn't ask that logically and correctly. Do you see how that's a really a good argument? Isn't it like really weird, like incest? Isn't it buggered up completely? Isn't that, how does that, she starts to, like you said, like piece it together a little bit, but at the beginning, and if that was at the beginning, I think she'd be a little bit more composed because she could articulate that, but she isn't. Oh you beast, 3 syllables, again another 3. Oh you beast, da da da. She is pissed, she is angry, she is in a height of passion here, and she goes on even more. Oh faithless coward, da 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 da. 5 syllables, and then we've got another 5-syllable one. Oh dishonest wretch. This is meaty, gritty, passionate stuff. How the hell would you feel if someone genuinely shouted those things at you and was just absolutely emotionally distraught? Wow. Ernest, hello. Ernest says, hello. Yes, minimalist writing is powerful. Think Hemingway. Yes, and also the pauses, which I've talked about with Rodney before. And that's another thing. You'll see that she comes straight in. Whenever Shakespeare, again, this is a directorial thing, really. Claudio says that it becomes a virtue. Oh, you beast. She comes straight in. She finishes the full line for him. It's a very clever tool that Shakespeare did to help actors not pause too much, I think, and keep the energy of the scene going. So let's play around with those. Oh, you beast. Remember, this is something really important actually as well, especially in this play, because it's so about heaven and hell and this imagery of monsters and things. God and the devil were very, very real things in these people's eyes. You know, lots of people today don't really give a monkeys about religion. Those of you who are religious in whatever form of religion it is, those images will carry a lot more weight to someone like me who is an atheist, right? So I've got to remember, for Isabella, beasts, monsters, creatures, wretches, that's satanic language. That is dark stuff. That is scary. Okay, so the fact she's using those is a big deal, and it shows how affected she is as well. So bear that in mind, and I think it's really useful to look up these words. I always say it, but even if there's a word, for example, I was working on Viola the other day, and poor monster, fond on much as him, or whatever the line is, poor monster. I was like, who is she saying that to? I looked up monster and it unleashed the whole idea that, oh, monsters are devils. Like, and then she talks about the pregnant enemy. enemy, again, is Satan. It's the devil. And that's the kind of context that it's in when it was written. And we need to remember that. Otherwise, it can become a bit vague. So bear that in mind. Interesting for a nun calling out, exactly. She is like, this is heated stuff. This is like, I don't know why I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of Mo committing murder in EastEnders with the iron, killing her abusive husband. This is years ago. But this is people being at such extremes of life and death, of right and wrong. Claudio is begging her for his life. She is trying to remain dignified and a woman of God and a moral person, but she's been offered corruption, and again, corruption, devils, temptation, sins. She's been offered all of that to save her brother's life. What would you do? Fabulous. So, oh, you beast, oh, faithless coward. Again, it's not just oh, coward, it's oh, faithless coward. So you've got to make sure you hit these words and know exactly what they mean. Why does Isabella say faithless coward? Interesting, isn't it? Oh, dishonest wretch. And I think that faithless coward as well, coward, wimp, someone who's got no backbone, no morality. He's talking about how he's scared of hell and doesn't want to die. And I think, but he's also contradicting that fact that he thinks hell is scary by asking her to commit a sin and the very crime that he has committed. Do you know what I mean? I keep saying crime and sin as one and the same because they kind of are in this context, but bear that in mind. And I think she's realizing he doesn't have any faith because although he's just proclaimed about how he's scared of hell and everything, and she needs to do this to save his life, if he had faith, maybe he'd be forgiven. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I kind of know what I mean. So I'd do a bit more digging on that, but for the sake of time, let's go on. And Ernest has put, yes, beast was a moniker for Lucifer. Monica. 40 days in the desert thrown directly in her face. Exactly. Crazy. So wonderful. So if you're going to do this speech for drama school audition, guys, you have got to be there. You've got to be at that level. If you're going to do a speech ever, you've got to be at that level. And then she asks a question. And then she offers him an opportunity to think. At first, I think she's throwing at him. She's giving him shit for this. She's angry. She's upset. She is confused, but I think it helps her make a decision. Wilt thou be made a man out of my vice? Whoa. Big thing, really useful thing that is offered in Shakespeare, this question of manhood. Will you become a real man? And I don't think this is a healthy way to put it or whatnot, but just to bring it into modern context, I think it is this whole like real man thing. A real man hides his feelings and is really macho and supports the family. You know, that old kind of 50s acknowledgement of what a man's position was, stiff upper lip and all that crap. Now she's not really saying like a real man, but I'm just trying to put it into context, I think, for now. But she's saying a man, a man who is an honorable man. Remember, honor as well had a bigger meaning